joined forces with Frank on the People's Bid for TikTok, which is very exciting. It will use decentralized protocols, yet you both have a slightly different or even a different vision for how that will work.
I used to argue with my siblings too. So.
One involves blockchain and frequency tokens, and that may give rise to significant gains for its holders. Tim, with Solid Protocol, on the other hand, is an open source nonprofit with a home in the Open Data Institute and W3C standard. Can you both comment on how values and motivation sync here with your individual models? Frank, do you want to start?
Yeah, so well, you've heard us talk about where we are coming from as individuals and what we believe should be the web should be empowering for individuals. It should be a human-centric web, not a platform-centric web. And the question is, how do you get there? How do you go back to the original vision of a decentralized web? And how do you stay true to your values and true to the kind of the North Star? And then how you get there is the great debate. And it's and there may be more than one way. We think the work that Tim has done fits beautifully and is very complementary to the work that our tech team has done, and we'll see. But I think we're going to have to find a way for this whole new next version of the web to evolve, where it's commercially viable and sustainable, and people get engaged because they can build really interesting things without at all veering away from the values, but build great things that are true to those values and where they can go ahead and earn a living and make money and build things. There's 9 million apps in the existing web. There should be millions of apps in this new web, and some of them can be not for profit, some of them can be for profit. It's up to the motivations of the individual, but the web itself should embrace the values and put people first. And that's why this idea of a third protocol that gives individuals the power. You are you on the web. It's not your device. The web is your data is yours. It's permissioned by you. You're not mindlessly clicking on cookies of a couple of big platforms and giving everything up for a free app. The new apps are clicking on your terms and conditions of use. You're saying you can use my data on the following terms. And if you're going to make a whole bunch of money, how about giving me some money for my data? Because it's really valuable. So empower people and let people decide how they want to engage with the internet. Make it intentional. Not this attention-based, I'm going to profile you and then get your attention by addicting you. No, just respect people and make it intention-based, and it will work so much better if somebody says I'm a verifiable human being and I'm really interested in your good or service. That's valuable to everyone.
So, Frank, what you're saying is there's room for both of you. There's room for more than both of you in this new decentralized world. Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about how your values and motivations sync up with that idea?
Well, I suppose so the web has always been open protocols, and the web's never had sort of any sort of tokenizing system inside it to transfer sort of that revenue from one side to the other. But of course, on top of the web, people have built all kinds of things. As Frank said, you could have apps that you pay for and apps that are free, and open source apps and so on that you clone and make versions of. In Frank's stack, the DNSP, one of the things that we've always looked at doing on one possibility on Solid is to log in with blockchains are good at establishing a identity, and in fact this is one of the things where they've been quite more successful out there. And so if you make a when you make a private key pair, like you do if you play with Noster, or in fact if you create now a web, if you create a pass key, for example, even nowadays, pass keys are new because you're creating a private key pair. The act of creating a private key pair is mathematically an assertion of identity. That's the way DNSP works. It puts it on the blockchain. Solid puts it, and Solid does it, and you put your keys in your pod. In both cases, you establish identity. So I think there's lots of interesting. We should be writing code so that you can log into Solid pods with your DNSP identity, for example. That seems to be probably a fairly low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, so blockchain is great when it comes to verification, attestation, provenance, identity, and so forth. And how it gets implemented is kind of the question. And the Project Liberty perspective is that we should own ourselves. You've all watched what's happened with Web3 and silly NFTs and so on and so forth, and owning digital assets, and how the whole narrative is kind of spun off into this, kind of this unserious way. But think about it for a second. What is the most important thing you own? Isn't it yourself? And blockchain is very good at establishing that you are you, and there can only be one of you. And once we have identity established on the internet, because right now there is none, which is the biggest malpractice of all. You have billions of people connected, and you don't know who you're dealing with. It's a fake person. It's a machine. I pretend I'm Tim. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. It's unruly. You can't have a society function that way. So we think Liberty just came forward with something called Login with Liberty, which is doing what Tim described, which is an open source way for you to access your internet. No, you don't need 50 passwords for 50 apps. You control you, and anybody on the protocol, any app builder on the protocol would be able to. You'd have access to them.
But what do you think, Frank, the tipping point here is? Because it's new for people. People do want privacy. They do want to control their own data, but it's just not in the way that we search, the way we manage now our online life. So what's the tipping point that's going to get them to move?
Two things. One is, first of all, we have to demystify the internet. We all know how we live our lives offline. Okay, I mean, we have to be careful because there are now lots and lots of people that have never lived a life pre-internet. But there are many of us that have, and we know how privacy works offline. We know how how you verify things, how you do things as a human being, right? We don't share all of our information with a stranger, and you share a whole lot with your most intimate relationships. So we need an internet that kind of operates, and demystify it and get it to work in sync with how we live our lives and how democracies work and how human rights are respected and so forth. Tipping point may be this bid for TikTok, because the reason why Project Liberty engaged in it is not to own TikTok. We didn't start Project Liberty to buy TikTok. It came along. We happen to have the tech stack that solves the national security issues. We don't need the Chinese technology, but 170 million users and data coming over, Tim would have a lot of work to do there.
Right. So assume that we've achieved decentralization at a certain layer. Tim, do you think that we'll see pockets of centralization reoccur, and how do we protect for that?
Okay, so that assumption is a big assumption. You're saying that, so let's imagine then we're down the road. People have got the solid pods all over the place. Apple iCloud is now solid pod compatible. Google G Drive is now solid pod compatible, and so they'll support. So you can run a Google app and store stuff in your iCloud or in your Dropbox or in your Box.net or whatever. And so the dream scenario is that we've completely separated apps from storage, and the storage providers are all they're providing different forms of guarantees, but they're all using the same protocol. They're all compatible. Then Yeah, so you can imagine, just like so right now for storage. Okay, there is storage out there. There is personal storage out there. There is G Drive, there is iCloud, and so on. And those are competing. And you can imagine that what tends to happen because of the way markets work, because of economies of scale, you can imagine that down the road, actually, people would start one by one switching to iCloud. Just because an iCloud would get more revenue, so I think iCloud would do even cooler ads, using even more expensive celebrities to promote them, and then everybody would just end up on iCloud. Obviously that's a danger. And in America, the FTC, maybe this time the FTC, before Facebook bought Instagram, sort of next time around, before iCloud, maybe the FTC would block it, say, and actually no, iCloud, Apple, you can't buy G Drive. Yeah, you can't merge with G Drive. So maybe people this time around will be more aware of that worry. But yeah, whenever you have a big service like that, because of the economy of scale, that's liable to happen, and we just have to be aware of it. And that competition that makes sort of iCloud and GCloud and FCloud and RCloud all sort of fight to be your favorite private cloud, your favorite sort of pod provider. That's all good. So it all produces better services and lower costs. Trouble is, it ends up with that's the irony of the whole capitalist system in a way.
So the work Tim has been doing and the work we've been doing is getting closer and closer, because if I said a solid pod is a solid wallet, everybody would say, well, what? Well, it sounds a lot like Web3, and it is a lot like that. It's a different approach to solve for the same problem, and the beauty of all of this is the engagement in the project with really brilliant people who have a keen knowledge of all this and a vision for how it works. And there's not just one vision. And I say to Mike and the team at Project Liberty all the time, this isn't about being right. This is about getting it right. And so this is engaging with people like Tim to get it right is really key. And so I can see it just beginning to kind of show up in a way where different thoughts and visions are kind of beginning to come closer and closer, and I imagine we'll land on a place which will be really great.
Thank you. I just wanted to
pick up. Yes, wallets. I should be talking about wallets as well as pods, because we found that when you say pod to somebody, they go, what? And you say wallet to somebody, they go, oh yeah, I know what wallet is. So another way to look at the Solid protocol is about standardizing between Google Wallet and Apple Wallet and stuff like that.
So I've got two more questions briefly, but I wanted to shift gears a little. Frank, you've made some strategic charitable contributions to academia, like Harvard's Berkman Center, where you're funding a new social media lab. What do you think the role of academia is in developing solutions for social media?
I think they have a big role. I mean, all this, as I was saying earlier, all of this is the output of academic institutions that were given grants by the government to solve a problem, right? And anybody that doesn't think we have a problem right now is kind of, I think would be a frog boiling, because it's just getting more and more problematic. And I'm talking about, sustainable democracy. How do you have a democracy without autocratic technology? Totally dissonant, right? They don't match up. A completely contaminated information ecosystem. Information is everything, and we don't want it controlled by a single party or group or person, and we want it to be validated, true information, trust being destroyed, and most importantly, kids being harmed. So we are the frog boiling, and we need to fix it. The government went to the smartest people in the world and said, here's resources to originally take a vulnerable centralized telecom system and decentralize it. Well, we have a vulnerable centralized internet right now, and we need to fix it. And I think within academia, it's the collective brain power to engage in this and help fix a set of issues that are not only national security issues, but also societal issues, democracy issues, protecting children issues, and I think they need to lean in a bit more. And last time around, academia. Last time around, they were a little bit. The social scientists were a little bit asleep at the switch, while the computer scientists were building stuff. They were moving fast and breaking things.
Yes.
They achieved the objective, by the way, and so. This time around, let's get the social scientists there with the computer scientists, and let's agree first on what we're optimizing for, which is why you start with values, and then figure out the best solutions.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Makes sense. And the more brains we have working on this issue, the faster the solution will be. Finally, I guess, I mean, I could go on forever. I won't even get a chance to talk about regulation, but...
Thank God.
How important, I want to take it back to community. So how important do you think the power of community is? What does it give us? And is there anything it takes away from our daily lives? And I think of that. I know both of you are very strong on community. You know, there's always things you gain from community, and there's things you give up, like privacy, perhaps. What's your view? Tim, why don't you start on the power of community and what it gives us and what it perhaps takes away?
Well, I suppose for me, the web has always been always been about sort of groups and community. It's about, I wanted, from my sort of programming team at CERN to all kinds of groups of different sizes and shapes, you know, people who sing the same sort of music. Communities, I think, are really, really important. Not only do we need them for the world to function, but also we need for the person to function. So that said, communities are important. We need one of the things, certainly one of the threads running through all of the design of the software we've been building on top of Solid has been community. So for example, one of the things I want to be able to do, and you can do, is you can say, here's the URL of a chat group, and then when people come along and they start chatting, and you can on sort of Matrix or WhatsApp or something, and so people come to the chat service on the web, and after a while you have a group of people, you have a set of people who've turned up in the chat. Well, then you can sort of hit a button and say, well, you know, that set of people, I want to regard them as a group. They were the people who turned up that day. So basically, I want to be able to immediately regard you people who happen to turn up today as a group. And I want to be, so we should immediately be able to share photos, for example. That should be so easy, shouldn't it? So there should be a URL, a QR code for the group that we all are stuck here, so you can all send photos to it, and so you can all scroll back through the minutes which are being taken by somebody practically taken into the group. So basically, a lot of the software which we're building, I want it to be really powerful for communities to work. A lot of people out there who, because of the zeitgeist of they are, a lot of them are very interested in self-governing communities. So there's software out there for, if you are a group, how can you select, will you be Robert's Rules? Will you be an independent corporation? Will you be just a group? And if you are a group, how can you pick from other groups' constitutions and clone them? So I think there's, because people in the world, this decentralized web world, happen to be also interested in decentralized society. I hope we'll see a lot of really cool apps addressing community, making communities very stronger, and including, we heard about yesterday here, Audrey, who made Polis, for example, and there are things like it. There are things like it. The CCC and the Media Lab has got a thing. The Center of Collaborative Communication has got a thing called FOR, which is deliberately designed to help communities to be very healthy.
So you're very much in the pro-community, pro-community.
Goodness.
Yeah. Frank, what's your view?
Oh, I'm in the pro, just live my life with no interaction with any other human being ever. We're all pro-community. That's how we thrive as human beings. I mean, nobody lives the life alone. And just, again, imagine offline experiences, the joy we get from family, the joy we get from our spouse, our significant other, the joy we get from our friends, the joy we get by meeting a stranger and finding a connection. We are social beings. That's what human beings are. Yes, we want our liberty and our freedom, but if we don't respect those same principles in other people, we don't have liberty or freedom, right? So that's the so-called social contract. It's ironic to me that this massive, connection device is creating an epidemic of loneliness and disengagement and harm and anxiety and depression. Okay, so it's obviously not working. Again, the frog is boiling, right? So now let's Tim and I debate this a lot. The web has become a social web. What's happened with the web is it was no longer just exchanging data. It was actually the engagement of people and the relationships that people have with each other, the so-called social graph, which became kind of the rocket fuel for the internet. And unfortunately, the rocket went in the wrong direction. But that social connections is powerful inside the internet, and that is why a decentralized social networking protocol it's not about social media. It's about social networks, which is how the internet has actually evolved. It's what it is. It's a social web. And so we need to get control of that. The last point I would make, when I say we need to get control of it, we need to get the rocket ship going in the right place. That's my meaning. The last point, I don't think it is this trade-off of you can have community, but you give up privacy. If you own you on the web, and you share what you want with who you want, with your permission, you are the agent of yourself. I don't want an AI agent making decisions for me as to what I do. Maybe if it's to pick up my laundry, good. But it's what if my AI agent does the wrong thing? Am I liable? The point is, we need to have accountability on the web. Yes. And so I think if people are able to permission the use of their data, rescind permission, when just like we step out of groups, when we've joined a group and we're sharing information and we're getting closer. And you all have been in relationships where somebody's violated something, betrayed something, and you remove yourself from the group. That's not possible on the web right now. So let's put people in charge of themselves, not give up privacy to have community, but realize that life has risks. When you share information, offer online, there are risks. But let's not have single parties grab all of our information for what? A free app? It's ridiculous, and we need to just recognize it for what it is, and then cool the temperature of the water down so that we're actually thinking rationally about how the web should work, but recognizing that it's the ability, like Tim said earlier, in the early days, to put something out on the web and get so much more back, right? But you were dealing with trusted counterparties for the most part. It was small. You knew who was on the web, who was blogging. Now it's everybody, and there's anonymity, and there's fake people, and there's foreign governments, and there's machine bots, and there's. Yes. There's just no identity, no accountability, no verification. So society would not work that way if you could lie on your resume getting a job, or plagiarize an essay to get admitted to a school, or just lie your way through life and make it. We need some guardrails here and norms. Get back to something that feels really accretive, really good.
So back to community, really.
I'm for community.
Yeah. And as Tim has created Charlie, an AI that works for you. So actually owning your own data and having that AI that works for you. So I think that's all the time. We're just getting going here. But I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much, both of you, for all that you do for the
Rosemary,
world.
Thank you to you and Tim, too, for your trust and your engagement in this project, because it just, when people like you get involved, our chances of success are greater. And so please get involved. Anybody that has an interest, that feels they can add value and get fix what's wrong and make it great, we want you involved. But thanks to both of you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Hank.